good on my end too. Okay, so I'm going to read the intro and then we'll jump on into it.
Amazing.
Hello, innovators. I'm Todd Wyant, and welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast presented by Applied Software Great Tech Group. You're invited to join our conversation to model the future of construction innovation and the digital transformation adventure of this great industry. My guest today is Britta Teller. She's the Chief Sustainability Officer and co-founder at Steller Floors. 5 years ago, she pivoted away from her PhD academic career in ecology and statistics to co-found Steller Floors in Tyrone, Pennsylvania. Today, her team uses their exciting and innovative hardwood floors to make a positive difference in both global climate change and in their rural Pennsylvania area. Welcome to the show, Britta.
Thanks for having me, Todd. I'm so excited to join the podcast.
Likewise. So I got to start by hearing the story of how a PhD finds her way into the construction industry.
Well, I do like to call it my millennial hard left, right? There's a lot of quiet quitting going on these days, but actually at the time, I feel like there was a lot of loud quitting going on. So people just were like, I hate this job. I'm out.
Yeah.
That was not the case for me specifically. It was sort of a dramatic change. I grew up in the suburbs, and every time I was out in the woods, I was just fascinated by different animals, different plants. I was that kid who was knee deep in the river pulling crawdads out. I wouldn't do that anymore. For some reason, it was cool then. It's not cool now. But I fell in love with nature, and I also fell in love with education. All of my teachers really inspired me, and I really thought, if I could be a professor one day, that would be the amazing career. And I was really committed to it for something like a decade. So I did a PhD in ecology. I actually studied how seeds float on the wind. Turns out to be a bunch of math and aerodynamics. It's weird. A lot of statistics and chasing seeds, obviously, across fields. I did a postdoc in climate change. And then I became a teaching professor at Penn State. So I was teaching intro bio courses for hundreds of students every semester. And I was teaching students two things. One, I was teaching them biology. So I was teaching them about climate change and how important it is to do things that are sustainable, just for the health of the planet and biodiversity. But I was also teaching them that they could do anything and they could save the world. And meanwhile, my husband was working in wood products, and Evan had invented a flooring assembly system. And that's what Steller Floors is today. And he said to me, should I be as educated as you? Should I go to law school? And I said, no, that sounds expensive. So it sounds cheaper, actually, to hire a lawyer and see if that invention you came up with is patentable. And so we actually ended up investing in trying to apply for the patent. And we ended up getting it. And that was the moment where I really had to decide, do I stay with this kind of safe career? And I know I can make an impact on people for sure. I can help people understand why climate change is a problem. Or do I dive head into this natural product, this hardwood product, and help people understand how to make materials and manufacturing and construction more sustainable? And I just took the leap. I can't really say why. It was different and exciting, and it has been lows and highs starting a manufacturing company as a PhD in plant biology. But I sincerely think that we are on the edge of something great. I think that sustainability in construction and building materials is going to be the new Silicon Valley. I think that honestly, there's going to be such an explosion of diversity and innovation in building products, and specifically sustainable green building products, that I'm glad I made the switch for all the highs and lows. I'm excited to be part of the construction industry and people who are rolling up their sleeves and doing the very hard work of making buildings and people's homes more sustainable. And so I'm thrilled to be part of the community. And, you know, I miss my academic days. I miss the camaraderie, I guess, of being a total nerd. But, you know, fortunately, I have access to other nerds, right, Todd?
That's right. That's right. There's a lot of nerds over here in construction. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
I've joined the club over here.
That's right. Nice. So what kind of learning curve was there coming in from a very different world coming into construction? And maybe a second part of that, how did your science background, how did that help equip you to come into construction?
Well, I would say there's two things. It's not as big of a jump as you'd think, because it's different lingo, but it's all the
Mhm.
same stuff, right? So in biology, like I mentioned, I was doing statistics, I was doing modeling. It's all the same tools in accounting and business growth. If you're doing projections for your business, it's not so different than tracking a population of plants spreading. You know, instead of plants, I'm tracking dollars and products and inventory.
Yeah.
So those tools are really parallel, but they have different words. So you totally have to be willing to jump in on the lingo. Like for a long time, I was really angry about like QuickBooks journal entries because I'm like, why do we call this a journal entry? It is not a journal. I am not writing my feelings. this is this is a data table. Like why
Yeah.
why is this even named this? This is a dumb thing to name this. So you get hung up on weird things like that, where it's like this accounting principle is bonkers and everything's named different things. Um,
And we like acronyms in construction as well
oh
too.
my
Everything's
gosh.
an
Oh, the
acronym.
alphabet soup over here. I'll tell you, that is another thing. But academics love their alphabet soup too. And so I think the biggest skill that I brought from my academic background to the business world and the construction world is questions. Do not be afraid to ask questions. Dumb questions, brilliant questions, questions. Because, you know, and I would ask anybody, I'd be at a gas station being like, so 2x4, is that exactly how it's measured or is it just close? Right? and and if that person didn't know, I'd ask the next person, I'd ask the next person, right? So generally speaking, like a tenacity to just like get that question answered and be confident that that's the right answer. And I've asked enough people to know that a journal entry is really what I think it is. um, that I think
Yeah.
you know, has been really important. There was one segment, so specifically in wood products, I was so embarrassed to ask questions for a long time. And that really, I think, was a huge it might be the biggest mistake that I made. Um, and I think it was because I wanted to be part of the community so badly, that I was embarrassed to ask questions. And I didn't want to look like an idiot. But when I finally started asking those questions, it turns out the community's so welcoming and they're not, you know, nobody's looking down on you because, you know, you can't tell the difference between red oak and white oak, right? And you have to learn these things sometime, right? You're not born knowing the difference between different species of oak. And so, yeah, so I think, you know, it's really important to ask lots of questions. And if anything, I didn't ask enough.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I really appreciate about the construction industry. So I come from a whole marketing background, so I wasn't, getting come of age in the construction industry. So I feel total license to ask the stupid questions as well too, and just let my curiosity go where it will. And I think in this industry, people welcome those questions. It seems like it on the surface that they wouldn't, and that they would kind of look down at you and be like, "You don't know this. This is such a waste of time for me to answer this." But it's the opposite. It's true. They find out really quickly that you don't know
Yeah.
what they're talking about. You can't hide it very well. At least I
Yes.
couldn't.
Yeah.
So go and ask the dumb questions. They appreciate the honesty of like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm willing to learn, but you got to tell me what you're talking about because I have no idea what you just said.
Yeah.
And then you tell me, and I'll go out and I'll do what needs to be done there. But you got to educate me.
Absolutely. And I think, based on a lot of the questions that or a lot of the conversations I'm having in green products, at Green Build, at AIA, thinking about green materials, this is an all hands on deck moment. And literally no one is prepared to deal with the scale of the problems the construction industry has, right? When 40% of carbon emissions are attributable to construction, right? Everything we do has the power to make a difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
When people invest more time in craftsmanship so it lasts longer, they're making a material impact on the planet, right? Not just in that building, not just for that homeowner, not just for that commercial space that looks nicer now and will last a little bit longer. We're helping the planet, right? And it's an emergency. We have to get moving. And I think that means we need more people from other fields to join the field, right? And we need them to join on now. And it doesn't matter what part of their career they're in right now. You're about to retire, get on board. You just graduated, get on board. Everybody on the board, right? Everybody ask questions, everybody talk. Let's start trying to solve these problems. Let's reduce carbon emissions today. And don't be embarrassed to ask those questions, right? Because there's going to be a lot of new people in this industry. And you just can't hold back, right? And we're all responsible, all of us who ask the dumb questions, right? Then we're responsible for answering them. And I think that makes the community bigger and wiser and better. So I think it's positive all around when you have the courage to be like, I'm a dum-dum. I'm here and I'm trying really hard, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. No, I like that. And so for the last week since the last time we talked on the prep call, for those interested in how the sausage is made there, you've had me really just noodling over something that you said that I thought was so profound. And you said we have to make the aspirational practical to the individual and connect those dots because, as you just said, it's a big problem. Sustainability it's a huge. There's so many different facets to it. It can seem really overwhelming. It can seem almost pie in the sky. Like yeah, we know it has to be fixed, but that's somebody else's problem. That's like the industry as a whole. It's a collective problem. But if no individual connects with that and takes ownership of it and makes it practical for them, nothing ever really gets done. We don't push that ball further down the field.
Yeah.
So, can you kind of expand on how do you make that aspirational practical on the individual level?
Absolutely. And sustainability has this crazy irony to me, right? And maybe this is my millennial background. There's an irony here, which is sustainability seems like this big, impossible problem, right? You got to drive to work. You got to drink your Pepsi out of a can, right? Like you have to live in the world, right? Like the shirt I'm wearing is synthetic, right? That's plastic, right? Okay, right? Like I got to live. I got to wear a shirt. I'm cold, right? I got to buy stuff that's available
especially
on
up
the
in
shelf.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, right. I can't just go chase a sheep and knit a sweater. You guys crazy, right? So it seems impossible, right? But all at the same time, too, you want to belittle it. You want to be like, oh, yeah, me recycling this can, who gives a crap, right? And I think that's, there's the irony of it's both too big and also kind of like, is this just about recycling? I feel like we're still having a conversation about recycling. And we absolutely are, but it's more nuanced than that. So in the sense that we do have to make these problems tractable on an individual level so that everybody feels like they can actually make a big difference. And especially in construction, the opportunity is so much bigger than I think anybody really realizes yet. In veterinary science, you've got to use a syringe. You're going to throw that syringe away so that you don't give the next animal a disease, right? That you're going to put that in the trash. But in construction, you can make reusable product decisions, right? You can reclaim things, you can reuse things, you can make things last longer, you can repair things instead of throwing them away, right? These are real things that have material impact on the planet and on landfills and on how many trips you have to make. So in a way, folks who are working in construction and building materials, architecture, interior design, they have sort of the biggest chance to play Captain Planet, and it doesn't come back to planting trees or sort of recycling all your cans. It comes back to the real work you do, the real work you love. Do more of it, right? And invest in those things. And that is a green decision. Craftsmanship is the new green, guys. Like, let's take ownership of that. And be proud of the work that we're doing. Sometimes we're covered in dust and we're in mud up to our knees. And that's the hard work. That's where the hard, gritty work is. That's where we're going to solve the problems.
Yeah. So how are you helping to then empower the craftsmen locally? And if I can play off Captain Planet, because that just saying to my millennial heart as well.
Exactly.
How do you give them the power rings of earth, wind, water, fire?
Well, and it comes back to responsibility, right? So I feel the same way about my aluminum Pepsi can as I feel about our hardwood floors, right? So I feel like Pepsi bottles are Pepsi's problem. They are distributing an addictive caffeinated beverage in a material that damages the planet. It's your job to figure out how to deal with that material waste stream, right? But for me, I started a flooring company. This is my job, right? My job is to make life easier on people in the field, to reduce waste, to make sure they're not throwing away useful material. And what that means is, and again, one of the reasons, since I quit the career that's behind me, I wasn't going to start a business to make a product that wasn't worth making or worth buying, right? So to me, investing in craftsmanship, in flooring, in our product, in our hardwood product, investing in our supply chain so that we're bringing quality to the supply chain, we're sourcing from people who are doing the right thing and investing in their quality and their quality product, it reduces the amount of, for instance, overage that you would buy from us in our hardwood flooring company. So in flooring, generally people are recommending 10 to 15% overage. And I have gotten into bare knuckle fights on Instagram with people about overage in flooring. And they're like, I drop so much flooring, I need 10 to 15% just to deal with getting to the corners and edges of rooms. And so we actually did a flooring install and I took a picture of the waste and it was 2.5%, right? And that was for cuts. Because when we make a floor, when we ship a floor, if that plank is defective and doesn't meet our specs, we're going to replace it. I don't send you trash so that you can throw it away. But one of the big secrets in the flooring industry is it's faster for me to just throw trash into the box and send it to you. And here, you throw this away, right? No, I'm not going to make trash in the first place. You won't see trash leaving my facility and finished planks, right? We are so careful about our waste stream that you don't buy overage because you're going to reject planks from me. God forbid, right? And that also gets back to craftsmanship on our manufacturing floor. Our employees who are craftspeople who are trained to identify defects and identify planks that don't match spec by feel. They're touching the planks, they're handling the planks 4 or 5 times through our facility. We're paying folks living wages and providing upwardly mobile careers in craftsmanship on our manufacturing floor to make sure that the job on the job site is quick, right? You're not going to be looking at this going, this is trash, right? And if you do, I'm going to be just as mad about it as you are, right? Because, you should not be thinking as a contractor that my job is almost expressly just sweating, right? There's so many more important things on a job site to making that job valuable, I should be making my product good enough to get out of your way, right? And
Mhm.
so, when we set out to make our floors are manufactured within thousandths of an inch, right? And the materials spec in the National Hardwood Flooring Association is usually about a 16th, because that's what's measurable, right? A 32nd would be kind of mind blowing, right? But we're talking 0.005, right? And that measurement is all about our machining tolerances. We have climate control on our manufacturing floor. And that is all about making sure that when these planks arrive on site, they are as easy to assemble as possible. Um, and then, obviously, as folks who are installing the floors and interacting with the floors, these are designed to be reused. That is an opportunity. Installing a Steller floor and being part of our community means repeat service for a floor, right? So, with a hardwood floor, usually you go to install it, and people don't need to replace it for 30 years, right? They might need refinishing, and then you're going to have to lug like 100 pound or 200 pound sander into their house. Well, with a Steller floor, because it's assembled without nails or glue, you can remove a plank with a suction cup, right? You have lots of opportunities to return to that job site and help that homeowner, right? This is increased opportunity. All of a sudden, they also need a repair on their window, or they need a repair in their bathroom. Being an on site service provider and being able to repair and refinish planks on a spot basis is cheaper for the client, but it also gives you more access to that interior space where people trust you to manage a floor that's easy to maintain and keep looking nice.
Mhm.
So our assembly system definitely allows contractors to have a more extended relationship with their clients, and also allows them to sort of get those jobs done quickly so that you can do more of them and you have more clients. A lot of our local contractors that we work with talk about how they hate hardwood flooring jobs. Even though there's a list of 10 that they could potentially do, they can only take one, and then they have to tell the other 9 no. And it's like, I would love for my product to be perfect enough and go down fast enough that you can say yes to all 10, right? That's a
Yeah.
huge increase opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So, by reducing the waste, so to speak, on the efficiency side of things, and being able to get to more projects, creating more kind of sustainable life
Yeah,
for the craftsman. What's the connection between that sustainable life philosophy and model with sustainable environment?
absolutely. So when you have a product, I mean, my philosophy is, why refinish corners of the room you never walked on, right? If you have a whole floor, a whole amount of wood that's been harvested from a forest and people have put a lot of time and energy into making, why refinish corners of the room you never walked on? So for one, we're limiting the amount of waste created by sort of refinishing things that don't need to be refinished.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes you don't even need to repair the plank, right? So that means that you could actually just use a suction cup, remove that plank, put it under the couch, and take the one under the couch and put it out in the middle of the room, right? So if you need a spot fix like that, no big deal. The other thing that happens is we get a lot of clients with flood damage. So increasingly, storms are getting more dramatic and more problematic. Water comes through windows, water comes through doors, sometimes floods happen. With a floor that's assembled without nails or glue, you can access those flooded areas really quickly, respond to the issue, dry everything out, and reassemble your floor instead of just looking at it with a giant puddle on it and watching it respond to water and go, oh my God, this whole floor is damaged. In fact, in insurance claims for floods, floors are near the bottom of the building, and hardwood floors are usually pretty expensive. So one of the biggest expenses for insurance companies is actually hardwood floor repairs, because the whole thing has to be replaced. And of course,
Mhm.
insurance adjusters don't want to replace the whole thing. So they're like, oh, only this area is damaged. And you go, no, the whole thing has to match, right? Well,
Right.
with a floor that's modular, right, you get this opportunity to just repair the damaged areas. So you have a much higher chance of actually being able to recoup, the value from your insurance company when that damage happens. And
Yeah.
then you throw less out. Can you imagine only having a corner of your room damaged from water and then having to throw out the entire floor? Like, it's incredible.
Incredibly frustrating and disheartening.
Right. And so we're just sort of peeling back the layers of waste that happen in flooring and sort of restoring wood products to a space that we know that we have this intimate relationship with wood floors as humans, right? I think our relationship with wood products, I saw that the earliest figurine of a wood carving was found like 12,500 years is like the age, and it was found like in a Russian peat bog
Yeah.
or something,
Wow.
and wood being on the floor of cabins, of homes is like super like well known. But hardwood floors have become like an American staple. We love living on them. They're warm, they have great character, they have great acoustics, and they just make a space feel a lot warmer than, say, like a polished concrete floor or an LVP or
Sure.
laminate floor. um,
Yeah.
but because they're hard to repair and replace, people get intimidated by them. And so here at Steller Floors, we're trying to like make the ultimate hardwood floor, right? We don't want anybody to be intimidated by the process of loving and owning a hardwood floor anymore. So we've tried to bake in all the goodness we can possibly bake into it, like quality, reusable, refinishable, easy to install, we've even auctioned a floor on eBay. So you can even resell your floor. As you can tell, we're very, very excited about the opportunity to show off, sort of like a different side of hardwoods.
Yeah. I love that. And the passion, I think more than shines through. It's awesome. Very
You've
cool.
never met somebody as obsessed with hardwood floors.
Hey, it's great. You got to.
Yeah.
What's a trend, sustainability trend that we should be paying attention to this year?
Oh my gosh. I've been watching this very, very closely. Obviously, I'm obsessed with everything that's happening on an environmental level, but I'm also obsessed with carbon emissions with buildings and scope 3 emissions and the new SEC rules. So, and this is really important. And I know it sounds like really like far out and like impossible. Um, the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission, is writing up rules that says that Fortune 500 companies, really people who are publicly traded, companies that are publicly traded, are going to need to disclose their scope 3 emissions. And that includes the buildings that they build, their commercial, assets. They're going to have to disclose how much carbon is embodied in those buildings under scope 3 emissions. And that is going to put strain on the supply chain all the way down, right? And that's going to affect building products. It's going to affect contractors. It's going to affect architects. And even if the rules don't go into effect this year, they're sending a signal, right? They're saying, look, the United States has signed a whole bunch of climate agreements that we actually have no idea how we're going to like comply with. Eventually, we're going to have to do these things because we said we would, and it's going to come back on everybody. It's not just contractors. It's going to come back on farmers. It's going to come back on, folks in data, big data, the emissions from server farms. It's going to come back through the entire ecosystem that we're going to have to start declaring our carbon emissions. Low embodied carbon products like wood products make a huge contribution and a positive difference in scope 3 emissions. So wherever you can use wood instead of plastic, those are going to be really easy substitutions to make when those things become an issue. And the second thing that's happening sort of in the US that, is the Inflation Reduction Act has specified that in construction that is funded by federal money from the Inflation Reduction Act, even if $1 comes down, right, is partially funding part of the construction. So let's say you're building a library in Kansas City and you're using federal dollars. It may be as basic as a train station or, a little water treatment plant. All the construction materials, the steel, the lumber, they have to be BABA certified. And this is a new law that went into effect with the Inflation Reduction Act last year. And BABA means Build America, Buy America. And so keep an eye out for those products that are manufactured in America, not just because it's the right thing to do. It lowers your carbon footprint overall, and you invest in your community and you invest in craftsmanship in your own backyard. But also, those federal projects are going to require it. So I think moving forward, if you're in construction, if you're in interior design, if you're an architect, investing and educating yourself about green initiatives and green building products at trade shows like Greenbuild. Greenbuild's going to be in Washington, D.C. this year. I think it's going to be huge. It's going to blow up because so many people are curious about how to make their process more environmentally friendly, to make sure that they're maybe if you're not even doing perfectly, but you're just doing better than you were before, right? I think that everybody's going to be turning over a new leaf, and it's going to be representative of competition moving forward.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in 1% improvements.
Yes.
Those stack up so much over time and make a huge impact. You don't have to go from A to Z in one step, and you won't. And if you try, frankly, you're 99% you're going to fail. But if you take those small little adjustments, you look back and that's a huge A to Z step that you didn't realize that you took.
And those things you can be proud of. It's doing your job better and also doing better in a sustainable context it's like green check marks all the way down. So I think that those are really, they're win-wins, right? You get to win because you're doing a better job, and you get to win because it's a win for the planet.
Yeah. So what does innovation mean to you?
Innovation. Oh my gosh. Thinking outside the box, I think innovation, go break stuff. And then figure out how to fix it. Why is it broken? I think certainly when Evan came up with this flooring concept, what is that that phrase? Adversity is it stimulates all kinds of new thoughts. Signing up for hard things, you become a problem solver. And I think that's where discoveries can really happen. It's diffuse because I don't think I've ever really defined innovation. But I guess what I mean is if you set yourself up to solve problems by choosing a hard path, you're certainly an innovator.
That is true. I like that.
How to succeed the hard way.
Very well boiled down. Yeah. I like it. You either become an innovator or you don't.
Or you don't, and you're not, and you don't win.
That's right. Yeah. You definitely, the innovators have gone through the hard path.
Yeah, and made it.
But you've come out the other side. Not everybody that goes the hard path is an innovator, but if you're an innovator, you've gone through the hard path.
We'll make it graceful one day. But I like that, one time my dad said to me, he goes, "I'm here for you, kid. Win or draw."
I like it.
So, I think, most of the innovations, well, gosh, this year, in this decade, this lifetime is such an exciting time to be an innovator. There's so many things. If you have an invention that you want to see come to life, 3D printers are cheap, right? 3D modeling programs are free, right? There's free 3D modeling programs on the internet. What? Right? Advertising is much more accessible. Digital sort of like design is more accessible. Like, what an incredible time to be an innovator. I'm grateful that we didn't start our business 20 years ago. I think it would have been basically impossible. So, I'm glad, we're in this era, and it's a much better time to be an innovator than I think in times past.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do people find out more information and connect with you?
Yeah, so we are at floorsbysteller.com, Steller. Our company has the misspelled name because my husband's last name is Stover and my last name is Teller. And when you mash them together, you get Steller.
There you go.
It started as a joke and then it stuck. So yeah, floorsbysteller with an ER.com. And this year we have our Make It Seen campaign coming out, which has live videos every week to give insights into our manufacturing company, where we're making high craft, high value wood products right here in the US and making investments in craftsmanship and sustainability. So if you're curious, we're opening our doors this year and showing off all the things that we're doing here in central Pennsylvania.
Love it. Well, final question for you. If I could give you all power, you could snap your fingers and innovate one thing in construction, what would you innovate?
Darn it, I was thinking forestry. The first thing I was like, I know what it is in forestry.
That could be the bonus question.
In flooring, we need one of those robot dogs to carry flooring in the building. I think everyone would agree that carrying flooring into a building sucks. So if anybody's got ideas for how to get one of those robot dogs to carry flooring around, I think, yeah, you just have to make a lot of trips. There's a lot of, you got to get a wagon or something. So I think, to me, the biggest pain in the butt about flooring jobs is actually carrying the materials into the room you need to install them in.
Yeah.
So
there has to be a robot dog that can do that.
I'm sure it can do it.
That seems immensely doable.
Who can afford it? Snap my fingers
that's a different
everybody
question.
Gets a robot dog.
There you go. I like it. Well, Britta, thanks so much. This was awesome. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Todd.